What's up everyone, I'm Iris and you're watching my channel Yangfire Beauty. In today's video, we'll be exploring a day look office glam makeup. So grab your brushes and let's get started. Here I'm putting on some eye cream for Anna. I'm using a beauty blender, so I've loaded it with water then squeezed it out. It gives a little bit more of an even application. The eye cream is very essential because it will get rid of any kind of crepiness, fine lines, dryness, or just tiredness, puffiness, dark circles. Anna doesn't have any of this, but just for sake of argument, we're doing it. As for the moisturizer, it will be customized to your skin. So whether you're dry, oily combination, you have to pick the perfect moisturizer for your skin. The makeup's really only gonna look as good as the foundation, meaning your skin prep. I also have included a primer. So this is also important because when you prime your skin, everything else you put on top of it is just gonna last longer and also be more smooth. So the primer will also be dependent on the person's skin. So whether you're trying to even out skin tone or if it's pigmentation or possibly texture, all that's going to depend on what your canvas is. Okay, so here I'm putting on an eye primer, and people will often ask, why do you need a separate eye primer from a face primer, from a lip primer? And the answer is, honestly, they are all geared to different things. So an eye primer is usually a little bit more dry. And the reason why is it needs to hold the oils that are going to come out of your eyes in check while also keeping the shadows on intact and maximizing the color payoff. If you don't do this, you're just gonna notice that all your beautiful work is going to fade more quickly and the colors aren't even gonna look as true. It makes a huge difference. Okay, here you guys see me mixing something. So what I've done is I've used a primer and also a couple of long wearing concealers, and I've mixed Anna's color. So what you choose for foundation it does depend on the individual, of course. So some people, maybe they're a little bit deeper color in the face and lighter in the neck, and their choice is to go with the color of their face and blend it down their neck. Personally, for myself, I'm lighter in the neck and I prefer to go a little lighter in the face because I oxidize. So that's something you have to figure out for yourself. Like, what I mean by that is when you put something on, if it oxidizes, in a couple of hours, whatever you've put on has become like 2 shades darker. So if you know this about yourself, you almost have to go a little bit lighter, and it's not gonna look as great in the beginning, but it will fade into something really nice. Or if you don't, then you might go with the exact shade. So I've tested out the shade, I like it. I'm now blending it out with a beauty blender. Once again, the beauty blender is really great. I prefer it to a brush when applying foundation because it gives a really smooth, evened out look. A brush is really great as well. Sometimes it can be streaky. So for this reason, I've chosen a beauty blender. Okay, so here I'm concealing under Anna's eyes. Typically speaking, we would choose a pinky or peachy color to knock out any blues or browns under the eyes. Anna has really, really good skin, so I didn't really have to do a lot. If she had any redness, which she didn't, then what I would be doing is using something a little bit more yellow based in concealer to cover that up. So here I'm powdering Anna. I'm using a more fluffy brush, but like a paddle, and I'm stippling the powder on. So a lot of times people will sort of take a big fluffy brush and just smush it all over and swirl it. The issue with that is, first of all, you've got powder flying everywhere and it might not be precise. This way, I'm really kind of pressing the powder into the skin and locking the foundation in. Okay, so here I'm using a small brush and I'm using a more pink based powder that's lighter under Anna's eyes. And The reason why I'm doing that is because a big fluffy brush just can't get into that really small area under her eyes without, possibly irritating you or your model. Second problem is a lot of times under the eyes, it's an area of issue for women. And the reason being, maybe we have eye cream under there, and then that kind of pulls on or dislodges our eye makeup, our mascara, and all that. So I've basically put on eye cream and then a primer and then concealer and then powder to lock that area down. So for long days, you don't end up getting that sort of raccoon eyes that a lot of women end up complaining about. So because this is a day look, I'm using a fluffier brush to put a brighter shadow under Anna's brow. There is no sparkle in this. I've chosen a matte shadow, kind of a creamy color to accentuate her brow bone, but no shine really, because we're not going for glam, we're going more for elegance. So as you see, I've switched brushes. I've gone for a more stiffer paddle-like brush to put shadow on her lids. And the reason why is I'm trying to really pack that shadow onto the lids, and it's a stippling pressing motion rather than a sweeping motion. Twofold, the reason. A, if I'm packing the shadow on there, it's going to press into the primer and it's going to stay. If I sweep, it's kind of just going to end up everywhere, and a little cursory dusting is going to be on the lid. I've chosen a mauve color because Anna is a green-eyed blonde. Anything mauvey or purple, that's going to bring out the green in her eyes. But of course, we're not going for a very bright purple because this is still supposed to be office comfort. So now I've gone back to the fluffy brush, but I'm using the tip of it rather than the flat part. And I'm going into Anna's crease with a deeper mauve. This is going to accentuate her crease, but I don't want any hard lines. It just needs to be blended out because it's not fashion, it's just polished. So I've chosen sort of a smoky gray mauve, and I'm using that under Anna's lids. So, a lot of times people will use black, but it might not be suitable for everyone and not for every day. For Anna, because once again, she's fair and she's blonde and with the green eyes, I just think day to day, a black might be a little too much. Conversely for me, being dark-haired, fair-skinned, dark eyes, if I used a mauve, I would just look anemic. There's no point. I have to use black liner because just based on my coloring. And I'm using it on the top of her lids as well and sort of smudging it out. So it's not a hard line we're going for, it's just more like smoky. So here I'm using a mascara wand that has, it's a free one with obviously no mascara on it. And I'm brushing out Anna's brows. One, to tame them so they're all lying in the same direction, because Anna has some beautiful full brows, but they have to be kept. And the second thing is to brush out any powder that might have landed in them. Like you can see right now, her brow is so much darker when I've gotten rid of all of the shadow that's been laying on there in the concealer and powder. And I do this before I start drawing in her brows. So everyone's brow needs are going to be different because Anna's brows are so full and voluptuous. I don't need to do a lot with them. I'm sort of just grooming and making them a little bit longer. I have decided on a dark brown mascara for her day look. Whenever I do this, like stroking downwards first, a lot of my customers will be really surprised because they've always learned to just put the mascara underneath. I'll never forget one of my teachers telling me when I went to Blanche McDonald, if someone's standing and they're taller than you and you've done the bottom of your lashes but not the top, I mean, what if you have very light eyelashes, right? It's almost gonna look half done. So it's important to, I feel like, go always from the bottom down and then back up again to make sure everything is coated. Okay, so here I'm once again brushing out her brows. Maybe I'm a little obsessive about it, but I would always rather err on the side of caution. So they're all laying in the direction I want, and then the way I do it, there's many different ways, but I like to draw the tail first. So I want to decide how long the brows are going to be before I do anything else. And then I fill them in from the back to the front. I'm trying not to do any hard lines on Anna because, as I said, she's got really full brows. So we don't need that really stenciled in look. And as I'm doing it, I'm brushing them out so that it doesn't become too harsh. There's a shape, but it's almost like, the way I prefer to do brows is almost like, are you naturally born with them? Like, not too artificial looking. I've chosen a more taupey, grayish, ashy shade as well, because rather than going warm, Anna's hair, as you can see, it's blonde, but not platinum. So I'm kind of going more with her natural hair. Okay, so no matter who you are or how careful you are, I think that always there will be some fallout when we're doing shadows. It's just almost inevitable. So when that happens, it's important to remember to clean it up. What I usually will do is take a little bit of again, a paler pink powder, face powder, and I'll just go under the eyes and just sweep away. Make sure I am brightening at the same time. Okay, so basically now I'm highlighting her. I'm using a very small brush, and I'm using a highlighter on her chin, her cheeks, her nose, and a little bit above the brow. The reason I'm using a smaller brush rather than a big fluffy one is I wanted a little bit more of a precise placement. You can use a big fluffy brush, but you know, in areas under the eyes, you have to be very careful. You want it on the cheeks, but not directly under the eyes, because you don't want to be highlighting anything that you might not want to see. Like if you've covered up under eye circles, you don't want to be plunking a bunch of frosty highlighter there. So it's all about strategic placement. Okay, next I'm contouring her. I'm using a big angle brush, not a huge angle brush, maybe a medium-sized angle brush. And I'm sort of just looking, okay, where does her natural cheekbones, like where do they kind of become indented? And for someone like Anna, she's got really great bone structure, so it's very obvious. It just depends on the structure of your face. If your face is more round, you might want to create more of an indent. I'm also buffing it along her jawline, a little bit underneath her jaw and around her temples. And the reason why is because when we put on foundation, we're pretty much doing a blanket canvas. And that kind of, it's unnatural, right? We're taking out any kind of shadows that we naturally would have. So I'm shading it back in. I would choose a shade that's more cool than warm. So contouring is not bronzing, they're different things. The reason why choosing a shade that's more cool than warm is beneficial is because you're kind of trying to create a shadow, and a bronzer is warm and shadows are more gray than brown. I'm using a smaller brush here to contour her nose. Anna has a perfect nose. We don't really need to do this. I'm sort of just for the heck of it to show you guys. So now I'm putting eyelashes on for Anna, and you guys might have noticed that I did the mascara and everything liner first. If I were to do a winged liner, I would put these on first and put the liner on top to cover up anything. But because we did sort of a smoky look, I did that first. What is off camera that I would like to talk about is do not put the glue directly on the lashes, because if the glue kind of hiccups or whatever shoots out, if you will, it could totally ruin your lashes. And I mean, you could have these $80 mink lashes and that's it for them. So I would put the glue somewhere else, like on another palette, and then take a little toothpick or a Q-tip, scoop up the glue you need and put it on the band. What you're also not seeing is that I waited about 15 to 30 seconds while the glue kind of becomes a little sticky to put onto the band. You don't want to just squirt glue out and then put it on. It's just not going to be the right texture. It should be kind of almost tacky so that you prevent any kind of sliding. So I'm now using a big fluffy brush to add some blush on. The way that I do things is sort of whimsical. It might not be that methodical. Some people need to finish one area of the face, then go to the next, then go to the next. I sort of just move around at whatever strikes me at that moment. Because to me, the person sitting in front of me it's a different canvas every time. So maybe the needs change every time. I've chosen a very soft, peachy color because I don't want her face to be overwhelmed by a blush. So I put a lip primer on for Anna earlier, and I'm now putting on a really light gloss. Lip primers are really important because they keep the product in place, and it keeps any product, well, a really good one anyway, will keep the product from moving around, bleeding, shifting. Everybody should use it. For someone like myself, I have really big lips. If stuff starts moving around and bleeding and cracking, it's gonna look really nasty. So yeah, lip primer is a must. So here I'm taking a Q-tip and I'm just pressing the lashes on a little bit more firmly. I'm just pressing them down to make sure that they're really staying. I don't like to use my hands for this because, well, for myself, you can see that I have really long nails, so for the comfort of the other person, I would just rather use a Q-tip. It's also more sanitary. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're able to find this video informative, please feel free to subscribe and like Yang Fire Beauty, and also check out my Instagram at irisajax.makeup. Love you guys.